When it comes to family, like children, spouse, parents, whoever, when they're going through pain, I don't have the skill to kind of shut that off. What I've learned is I could lose my title, could lose my job. It's actually okay. I'll reinvent myself. And I will find another job, find another career, whatever. I'll do something. So I have that peace that actually, your job be job. That classic.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Clock.
How do you deal with stress? How do you handle that?
Coping mechanisms that I have is I go for a run.
Manage stress by obviously being moments like this. Directly saying I'm going off the clock.
Just even a night out.
I'm listening to my favorite music. I go into one of the studios at the gym and I dance.
Sip cocktails and rest and just do nothing.
I ground myself spiritually.
The right amount of stress is good. It helps you push boundaries. So it makes you have a sense that you are alive.
And then just having fun. I mean, there's nothing that beats good conversation and a laugh with the kids and a glass of wine.
How well do you do on the sleep side?
How do I sleep? It depends on what's going on.
So, I can fall asleep, but man, I wake up. So I always have a set of sleeping pills with me because I've resolved that why put myself through that when there is something that can help.
I'm not sleeping very well at the moment.
I should be sleeping longer. On average, 5 to 6.
I actually sleep really well.
I have also a skill that I could be asleep within 30 seconds of putting my head on the pillow.
I don't think the lack of sleep should be worn as a badge of honor as much as it used to in the past. I think especially for executives, the less you slept, the harder you worked. It was seen as a badge of honor.
Every interview has its own thing that you take away.
When I was diagnosed type 1, I felt like my world had collapsed because my food pyramid got inverted. And I was told that everything that I loved was now off the menu.
And by the way, I'm also ADD. At the time, we lived in Germany. So we moved back to Ghana when I was 10 years old because my dad studied and worked there. And they told him that your son has something called ADD and nobody understood what it was. And he's never going to go to university.
And I'm a very sensitive soul.
If you say you're going to do something and you do it.
So I come from a family of till death do us part.
My aspiration as a human is to be the same person in every environment.
I was like, this is not how my child is going to die. I just refuse. So we got him into the car. We drove to the nearest doctor's rooms and they started resuscitating him. And I still remember just lifting up my hands in prayer, God, you gave him life. And right now, I'm trusting you to just bring back that life. You give life, and I'm trusting you to give him his life back.
You don't think you know until you really know.
Yeah.
It's like traveling the world in terms of people's stories and knowing more. So it's been unbelievable, more than I thought we would get for this.
Right, guys, welcome back to Off the Clock. Today we have another special guest as usual. Our tagline, special guests all the time. Today we have Morris Mthombeni. Morris, thank you for coming. We know you're a very busy man. It's hard to get hold of you sometimes. But as we start the podcast, would like to give you the floor to give a nice introduction about yourself, because who else knows you better than yourself?
The Off the Clock was founded to demystify people like you, to focus and spotlight on sleep, rest, anxiety, depression, and just also looking at the whole work-life balance of executives like you, making sure that you don't just work, you also rest and play. So over to you.
Thank you. So it's really interesting. How does one introduce themselves? I think I will introduce myself chronologically. I'm a child of two parents, Dan and Grace Mthombeni. I start there because I think it's good to continue to humble yourself and in the various roles. So that's an important role for me. the role of being a child. I'm the eldest of 5 children.
Okay, you're the big brother.
I'm the big brother, yes. I'm the big brother. There's 4 boys and 1 girl, so we have 1 sister.
She must be like the treasure of the family.
No, she's the boss. She's the the family. She bosses us around. And I'm also I'm a child. I'm a big brother, but I'm also later on in life. I'm a husband. I met my wife at the dawn of our democracy in 1995, and we got married in 1999. So we are clocking 25 years this December. So I spend a lot of time with my family. Family is quite important to me.
How many kids?
How many kids?
Yeah.
Do you have? I have 2 kids. Okay. Tia and Naledi, aged 19 and 21. So one is in matric this year, the 19-year-old. That's Naledi. And we pray that all goes well because, yeah, you guys are very different. I'm talking to you now as a child. Okay. So it's very different to when we were kids. If we were very compliant, my children are very independent.
Yeah, I remember that.
So it's a very different kind of space. And Tia is in 3rd year psychology at Wits. My lady is at Crawford College. Yeah, so 2 kids, only 2 kids. And
was that your plan that turned out the way you wanted, or it's happened?
To have 2 kids.
Yes.
So I don't think we planned per se. We knew we wanted to have children, but it's not like we said we're gonna only have 2 children.
So you didn't have a set number. We were gonna have kids, but
my wife is very loving human being, and she knew she wanted to have children. I signed up to her, so I also wanted to have 2. And so when we had our first child, it was a great experience. Let's have another one. But when we had our second one, we said, okay, now let's make sure we don't mess this up. So let's pause, which I think was a good thing. So what I mean by plan, the plan was emergent. It wasn't like we sat down and let's strategize. Yeah. So it wasn't hard and fast. But once we had 2, we said, okay, let's pause. We'll review every 5 years if we want a third. And we were happy with the 2. So the need for review kind of disappeared.
Okay. Let me just take you, from the beginning or to the beginning.
Yeah.
How did you meet your wife?
Yeah, so I suppose that then connects me with work. So I met her at work. So she was coming to visit her sister, who used to work in our department. Early on in my career, I was a legal advisor. And her sister was temping in our department. She was coming. So she said, come and meet my sister. She was a university student. So we got, she was a first university student. I went downstairs at Liberty Life. So this gorgeous young woman. And the moment I saw her, I knew I've found my wife.
So, just like that, it sounds like one of those love at first sight. You saw
certainly for me. I don't know about her. I can't speak for her.
But what I want to say is that the sister who was temping in your department really hooked you up, right?
Absolutely, right? So I'll come back to her. There's a funny story about the sister later on in my career. But like for me, the moment I saw her, I said, okay, this is the one.
She's the one.
Yeah. So I just want to put it in context. So I make my move, eventually start dating. I was working in the legal department. I was 21 at the time. And I'm a young legal advisor. there was a company lunch, or let's say team lunch. So I thought, okay, I don't earn enough to go spend a lot of money in these fancy restaurants. Why don't I bring my girlfriend with me to the team lunch? Not the smartest thing. So she decides, no, this is a bit dodgy. She brings a friend of hers, right?
Oh, no.
So which is fine. My boss was okay with, like, the payment part was not the issue. I did get into a bit of trouble. He says, how old are those girls, Mo?
And you're 21 at the time. Okay.
I said, 19? He says, no, you can't bring 19-year-olds to team lunches. I said, so, excuse me, Carlos, what's the age difference between you and your wife? It's about 6 years. I said, I'm 21, dude. There's a 2-year age difference. So that's when it actually, like, he realized that I was in the right ballpark, but to look at them, they did look very young.
And you brought two of them.
It said, I know, it's like, it wasn't a good look at the time. So I never did that again. So a message to anyone who's interested, think as much as you might want to save on experiences, like separate, the conflicts of interest, we hadn't thought about that in those days, in the 90s, So separate those issues, what you do at home and what you do at work. Maybe just keep some of those.
I mean, but you were young. You didn't have the experience, right?
That's my excuse.
And it's a nice learning experience, right?
I mean, talking about ballpark range, marriage, we've had in the past very interesting discussions on this show about what is the right, age gap between a man and a woman to marry comfortably.
Yeah, no, I'm not a good person to ask that question, simply because, as you now know, I've known my wife for almost 30 years. So I clock 30 years next year, January. And so, like, I've been out of the dating scene for a very long time. And so all I know is a data point of one, me.
You didn't help your brothers out.
Look, no, they do. I mean, I don't know. You can watch people, but you don't really know. So I would argue it's less about age, but more about interest and maturity. In the sense that, are you able to cognitively remain interested in each other, even if you might have different interests, but do you challenge each other properly in a helpful way and interesting to each other, whether it's 2-year age difference like we have with my wife and I, or it's 10-year age difference. I don't think the number is the issue. I certainly think the real issue is the things that you found interesting at the beginning. When you wake up again 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, have you found other things that are correlation-wise similarly interesting?
Yeah, I mean, that's just another view, and there are many views.
Absolutely.
Maybe just to move on, Tlhatse, before you come in, just about your image as the dean, the professor.
Yes.
And
congratulations, by the way. You recently became professor. Yes.
Well, it's very confusing before you come in, Peter. So the title professor means many things, different things to different people.
Yes.
So if you are, let's say, in the US, professor means a teacher, as in anyone who's teaching you is a professor.
Okay.
And then in our context in South Africa, once you get your first promotion into the professoriate, which is now a profession, and that is an associate professor, they still call you professor, and then that's like half-time professor. And then once you have your final promotion, so like in this profession of professoriate, you still call professor. So what he's referring to is that I've now hit the ceiling. I no longer have any more promotions ahead to look forward to.
So, I mean, maybe this sparked another question. 2 questions that I'll ask you is, I mean, can I be a professor?
In what way?
because you talk about associate professor and adjunct professor.
Yeah, okay.
And just unpack that for me and the listeners, because
Yeah.
some of us have ambitions.
Yeah, at the risk of, I do not want to sound snobbish. That's the key point. I just was explaining what he was talking about. So obviously, it's a bit like this debate about the title doctor, because there are people that go study a medical degree.
Yeah, yes, degree.
Yeah, so that is an equivalent to an honors qualification. An MBSH is NKF level 8.
Yeah.
So they have an honors in medicine, but their title is a doctor, right? And then you'll have dentists who also have an honors, and they also become doctors and so forth, right? And then you have people that become academic PhDs, right at the top of their line, whatever, sociologists, statistician, engineers, whatever.
Yeah.
So once you have a PhD, then your title denotes a particular thing, which is at the end of your academic career, not academic qualification, if I can call it that. And then you have honorary doctors, people that they haven't studied anything, so they are being honored because of whatever, some success in business, success in sport, success in society, whatever the case, but that they choose to be honored for, right? So, but all of these carry the title doctor. So then you have to understand, like they're not made equally. They don't all refer to the same thing, right? So likewise, you get academic professors, and these academic professors would be people who like what I just described earlier. You go through various promotions where you are publishing the requisite amount of articles or publication outputs, and you are teaching the requisite amount you must have taught for a minimum of X number of years, depending on your field, and you are recognized by your peers. So to be promoted as a professor in that academic part, your peers say yes, he and they might write letters of recommendation. There's a rigorous process to get you to that
level. Yeah.
Then you mentioned other terms like adjunct professors, or they rather call them professors of practice.
Okay.
What that means is a university then recognizes you in the field of practice and says you've made such a contribution, and whatever the rules are in that university, we then want to confer an honorarium of professorship to you, but in the field of practice. So you will find people who are, so you will notice they call themselves professors of practice, because they say you are so excellent. Like I think you interviewed Caesar. Did you interview Caesar Ngasani? So Caesar would be a professor Ngasani here, right? Or Bonang, Professor Bonang Mahale. Yeah, right. They are because whether it's Wits or UJ have recognized them for their expertise and their contribution, and they also then teach, and they impart that knowledge. They share that knowledge back in the community.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see. Congratulations again. Thank you. The real question I want you to ask you is, and I've seen it as a CEO as well at work. The titles sometimes carry fear, intimidation to people's eyes, and also perception around it.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you walk around, do around at the campus, moving from one end to the other, when the students or the people see you, they're like, take short left, right, like, he's a robot, they're scared of you. What is the perception like? I mean, I jokingly earlier said, do people see you as, somebody who's really different and special, living this different life that is so perfect?
So maybe in part answer to your question, I need to complete answering his question, his original question, which was introduce yourself. And is that I've been very lucky that I was a CEO from a very young age. I became CEO in investments business at the age of 28. And then I was an executive director of a listed company at a very young age 33 or 34, thereabouts. Right?
Okay.
That was Momentum and the Momentum Metropolitan. It's not back to big core Momentum Group. And so I've been very privileged to hold senior positions.
Yeah.
Then I took a step back and started a new career right at the bottom as an academic. So I worked my way up again. When I turned 40, I left corporate and joined academia.
Okay.
Right. And then you work your way up. And I didn't have an aspiration to kind of go back into management, but I was thrust into management. So
Born leader.
say
You're born leader.
Well, I don't know, but anyway, I'll accept your comment, right? And so why am I giving this context? Then hopefully it kind of says I've been very privileged. I really think leadership, as you know, Peter, it's not something you kind of lean into easily. It's a huge privilege because so many people are trusting so much of their dreams, hopes, and aspirations on you, right? So like you have to be very careful in accepting that responsibility. And so I don't think I instill fear because I enter the room of leadership. I take on the chair of leadership. I take on the space of leadership from a position of humility. And like informed by a few principles. One, there's like this notion of authority and power, and the idea of energy, and the idea of how you can get the best out of people.
Yeah.
So for me, what I learned at a very young age, before even leadership, but just in terms of interacting with people, is that power is something that you must treat very carefully and hold on to very cautiously, because once you use it, you lose it. All right. And so it's kind of this
force them cash.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like energy, where energy doesn't, you don't destroy energy, right? Whereas power actually dissipates, right? So if you use your authority a lot, that's when people kind of go in different directions. Maybe Nisha, you could tell me what your experience is, but so for me, kind of power is something that is ever present, that you have whilst you have that role, and it authorizes you to do certain things. So what I choose to use it for is in the second pillar, energy, to energize the environment
and the relationships. Yeah,
absolutely. So like just, and how you use that energy is because understanding that if you use that energy in a way to get the best out of people, it's much better for the organization. And the third pillar then is right. It really is about how to motivate people, how to get the best out of people. Is appreciating that, and I suppose I learned this more as a parent. That I like every time I focused my children on what they were not good at, things never improved. But if I focused them on what they're good at, like suddenly even the stuff they were not good at started improving. All right. So it's like in business, we talk about this idea of giving constructive criticism. I think we call it constructive, but it's really not constructive. It's very negative, right? And so for me, how I energize people is kind of recognizing what is Morris good at, what is Morris bad at. Morris will never be good at what he's bad at. Find somebody else to partner Morris with about what he's bad at, and just completely over-index on what he's good at.
Do you have some examples of that? I mean, Gibbs is a very fast-paced institution. I'm sure you have some examples of what you're talking about.
So if you think from a model perspective, right? Yeah. So for me, Gibbs is like running an organization full of specialists. So So coming from where I grew up, a lot was in the investment industry. Portfolio managers are specialists, or if you're running a sports team, sportsmen and women are specialists.
Yeah, they do what they do.
They do what they
do.
Or you're running a hospital, the medical doctors and nurses are specialists.
Yeah.
The mistake most of us make is then to take your base specialist and make them the coach, make them the manager. Yeah. And so that's a bad model, right? So what our founding dean, Nick Benedell, and his colleagues who founded Gibbs did, what I think really separates Gibbs from most business schools in our region and maybe even globally, is to recognize that academics are only good at one thing, which is what they do in the classroom, how they inspire this major league experience with the students. They're really not great at administration. They're not great at project management and all of that. So in the model, we separated out the people that make decisions around the professional administration efficiency away from the administrators, sort of from the academics. Okay. And you they amplify the academics where they're good at, and then you take them out of making decisions around running timetables, making decisions about budgets, all of the marks, all of those things. Now, turns out that was my experience in running portfolio management businesses, because what you find is that these portfolio managers of any fund where you are invested, they're really very good at very narrow spaces. They're really good at picking stocks. They're really good at putting portfolios together, but they're not really good at playing nicely with each other. They're not good at team dynamics. They're not good at managing clients. So you need other people to do that. So from my perspective then is know who's great. I love to use the metaphor of jazz. Who's great at improvisation, right?
Yeah.
And who's great at the rhythm and the swing, right? Because you want it from a team perspective, the swing to be able to be there to hold the structure, so that when the person is improvising and innovating and doing some really amazing things, it doesn't sound chaotic. It sounds beautiful.
It flows, yeah.
It's actually more harmonious in the process.
Actually, you remind me, we did a team building on a orchestra, where bring room full of equipment and a small choir. Getting together to work sound like your institution, like to get good music. You have to coordinate all that. So go ahead, Katz.
So you spoke earlier about how when you turned 40, you went out of corporate and started anew. So can you just give us a bit of insight on how did you get to that decision, especially at that stage of your life? And I mean, how did you get to it, and what motivated you to the point of pull through with this decision? And I mean, you owned the decision. Look where you are now. So
yeah, look, it sounds romantic. The way you describe it, it wasn't. It was messy, and I suppose maybe it speaks to some of the like demystifying parts of leadership and management. So all these things of being a CEO at a very young age, being an executive director at a very young age, there's a context. It's happening at a critical time in our country, where you're trailblazing. So for the longest time, I'm a first black this, first black that, all right? So you know what I'm talking about. It's not an easy context. Right?
Sound familiar?
It's not an easy context. And women, for them, this job continues. They'll be the first women this and first women that, right? So for me, so in that context, so I was at a memorial service today, kind of looking around at the people that are there.
Familiar faces.
Yeah, and I was thinking, my contemporaries, i.e. people that I grew up with who are, from a professional point of view, are at least 10 years older than me.
Okay.
It kind of hits you that I was young, I was black at a time when it wasn't cool to be young and black and then be given opportunity in this country. And so a combination of factors, it was a very stressful time of my life in my late 30s. Had a fallout with one of my colleagues. And so when I left, I was given a 1 year's salary to say stay at home. Restraint of trade, cool off, because given the job I was doing, they did not want me to go and work at a competitor.
Yeah.
They thought, bless them, that I knew something that could hurt them if it ended up in somebody else's space. And so the idea was for me to, so I'm just pointing out to you that it wasn't like a plan, which is the questions asked me, did you plan to have 2 children? Did you plan to leave at 40? No, it wasn't planned. Like, it was an accident. It was stressful.
It's more like a life happened.
Yeah, life happened. And so what happened then is that I was sitting at home, same house I still live in now, and having tea in the morning. I said 2 weeks later, look, no one is calling me anymore. My like I had a new email, my inbox is kind of empty. And I said, and my wife was at work, kids at school. Like after 2 weeks of dropping and picking up, like it was getting boring. And
sorry,
so I thought, okay, I need to go and do something. So I told my wife, like that night, I am going to go to the furthest place I've never been to. So I went to the west coast of Canada.
Okay.
Vancouver, yeah. But like I went first to a place called Alberta, then ended up in Vancouver. The reason I started in Alberta was I wanted to go to the national park there.
Yeah.
Banff, for those of you that are interested, beautiful national park. I decided then to go to Vancouver because I have a friend who lives there. And whilst I was at this top of this national park at Banff in winter, cold, I had this moment of clarity. Oh, I know what I want to do. I want to study. I've always wanted to get a PhD. So my philosophy was, we were always complaining there aren't enough Black PhDs, there are not enough Black academics with the appropriate qualification. And I've always been the kind of person who says, don't be the problem, be the solution. So I wanted to be the solution to the problem I'd constantly identify. And so that's when I decided to study PhD.
You did it over there?
At Gibbs, yes. So at that point, to 2013, I had no plan to become an academic. My plan was just to get my PhD, spend a year that I'm being forced to be at home, productively study. And once I got in, they said, you need to come try to teach, because I already had a master's. So I started teaching. The idea was teach for a year, finish my PhD within 2 or 3 years. That plan didn't quite work out.
How did it go?
I'm still at Gibbs.
But and then you liked it?
No, I obviously liked it. So the idea of being there 2 or 3 years didn't quite work out. So 11 years later, I'm still at Gibbs. I do have a PhD now. I have associate professorship and a full professorship. Now I'm also a dean. So like things started happening. So life took over. So again, if your job is to collect titles, yes, it's a ceiling. But if your job is to create meaning, it's not a ceiling. There's a lot of meaning in every space you find yourself. And Gibbs creates amazing spaces for meaning making.
So I mean, I obviously kind of did my MBA 20 years ago. Yeah. So and I mean, maybe you know something about this, that this intense courses like PhD, MBA. If you're married, you're risking divorce.
Yes.
What's your opinion on that? Do you know anything about it? Have you seen some of your courses creating family issues?
Well, I do need to fact check that, but my experience is slightly the opposite. So we've had a few people get married on the campus. Okay. So we had what we do see.
You're changing the narrative.
What we do see is people have children. So like even on Monday we had a graduation, and there was an 8-month-old baby. This could only have happened during the MBA process. So I know that MBA used to say that it was called a marriage breaker, but I think we've had a different kind of experience. I suspect the reason is we emphasize a lot of humane centeredness within our MBA program. So on the one hand, it's quite demanding stuff. So people, they finish in time. So our MBA, you will finish it in the 14-month period that it's designed for you to finish it in.
Is that the full time?
That's no. Well, remember you are confusing. I think there's two things. You do a PDBA or 9-month period, and then the balance of the 13 months ish you're doing the MBA.
Okay.
Right? So that MBA, 90% of our students finish on time. Right? As opposed to some of our competitors who take 2 or 3 years, we want it done in 12 to 13 months, right? However, in the period of doing that, there's a lot of psychosocial support. We have coaches, we have preventative mental health care. And then once you are breaking down, we have a lot of stuff that catches you on the other side. So the kind of well-being solutions. So there's a lot of embedding of mental well-being. And so as a consequence, we're finding that there's a lot of pastoral care, if you want to call it that, in our system. And as a result, you can push and catch at the same time. So our people don't break.
Wow, that's very impressive. Yeah. So that sounds good.
And the one other thing I want to say is that, and I think we can do more in this space, when people do later on in life take on these additional responsibilities, remember it's a village. So bring your village with you, bring your family with you along on the journey. And so that they can see you learning and they're benefiting from your learning. So that when you are celebrating at the end, you celebrate with the people that you started with, as opposed to
being with you,
leaving the people behind and picking up a new family along the way and then celebrating with new people. So for us, right at the beginning, we want to bring your family into the conversation and grow with you and your family and so forth throughout your studies with us.
So, I mean, you look very energetic today.
Yeah.
How's your sleep? How many hours do you do?
I could sleep more. I sleep about 6 to 7 hours during the week. Sleep a little bit more on weekends, a lot more. When I'm not teaching, because our campus is open 7 days a week. So if I'm not teaching, I will sleep more on the weekend.
Okay, just recover.
Yeah. So I would say I don't struggle with sleep. Yeah, I'm good with sleep.
Okay.
I'm lucky.
There was never a time in your career, be it in corporate, in academia, where you kind of, had a sleeping problems?
I suppose all of us will have from time to time difficulty with sleeping when you are faced with complexity. And where, so where you don't know where the next check is going to come from, like during COVID, it's like you're watching that cash and you want to make sure
don't ban it all.
Yes, because then there's human beings that are going to get affected if you don't have sufficient cash. Right? So those kinds of issues, I'd say event driven.
Or some triggers.
Event driven. I remember in 2005, we had J. Arthur Brown tried to steal about, I'm trying to remember, 18 billion rands of our clients' money. And so there were some sleepless nights. There were some sleepless nights. He didn't succeed. So in case you're interested, he did not succeed. He was arrested 2 months later, but he didn't succeed. But for a while, it felt stressful. So it's events driven, and then next weeks become different. But I think it's normal in those kinds of scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can share some of the personal stories or triggers that triggered me.
Yeah.
Few. One is about, 6 years ago when I joined Medtronic, I kind of was two weeks in the job, and my predecessor happened to be Peter, an Australian guy, and my CFO was also Peter. I think you met him before. And then they said to me, this they kind of set up a meeting called Update because I was still kind of getting myself into that company. And then they called this meeting in a room without windows. We have about 15 or so meeting rooms. This meeting is in Kenya. The meeting rooms are named after African countries, as you've seen. This one is in Kenya. There are no windows and all that. Normally, serious discussions are held in that room in Kenya. In Kenya. And then we sat down very quickly. I said, Peter, there's a small matter of fraud that we need to discuss with you. And it happened that there was a lady who stole over time 537 million.
Yep.
And I mean, I didn't know about this HR when everybody recruited me. I didn't know about that. Boom, my sleep was kind of pushed out of balance. But I mean, there's been many that, sometimes as a CEO, you get told everything. I mean, everything that sometimes you don't want to know.
Yeah.
Because you kind of trusted partner, as you said, because of many factors, the style, the humility, and the way you go about it. Yeah. And I remember this one time, this lady had a very aggressive brain tumor.
Yeah.
And because we work with that side by side with neurosurgeon, cardiologist, you name it, she knew exactly what's going to happen to remove the tumor. She said, I'm not interested into that. That time they said, you're going to leave. Got up 5 to 6 months to leave. And she decided, I don't want to do operation. I accept I'm going to die, but I need to do a little bit of trouble. Bucket list of few things to take before I kick the bucket. And she said I was going to go to China, see my daughter, and then I'll go to Italy and see some friends, and that's it. I'm ready to go. I was struggling to reconcile with those choices, not mine, but other you calling my space. Yeah. So, as you said, I mean, there's so many things that trigger stress, anxiety, disturb sleep. But I'm sure you got better stories to tell, right? It's better than.
So, I mean, I told one that almost losing 18 billion. I must say, so that one for me, so I'm going to think about like two paths that I want to go down this route. So that one happened, I wasn't even 30 yet. So I told you I turned
28, yeah, started,
right? So it's early in the fact it was my early, it's just, I think I just turned, sorry, I was 31, 2005, I was 31. And just, I still young as an executive. And so the lesson there was, I need to be very careful about the kind of stress I can invite. So I'm very careful that professional stress I don't invite into me anymore. So that's
explain the inviting, because
what I mean is that, so I've, like you, have had experiences where I have colleagues that steal from the organization, there's fraud, whatever. But if I know I've done everything I could to improve internal controls in the organization, and yet stuff like this still happens, I don't allow that into my space to kind of disturb me, right? But that's one path, right?
That's key.
Yeah, right. The other path, however, that I do struggle with even today is when it comes to family, like children, spouse, parents, whoever, when they're going through pain. I don't have the skill to kind of shut that off. Right. So you were speaking about what triggered you, right? So for me, my Achilles heel is my family. So if my family is threatened, if me in the family is threatened, if my children's outlook, whatever, so that part, and I would lose sleep over that part. What I've learned is I could lose my title, could lose my job. It's actually okay. I'll reinvent myself. And I will find another job, find another career, whatever. I'll do something. So I have that peace that actually Your job be job.
That classic.
That you shouldn't mess with that, because actually, okay, some people have many families, that's okay. And yeah, but even then, right, just be a lot more cautious around that. Okay.
How do you how do you go about choosing to connect with your family? Like your wife, how do you spend that one-on-one time to make sure the connection is still there? How do you go about spending time with your kids, your daughters? Like, do you do it individually? Do it together?
Yeah.
Do you do specific things with one because she has different personality from the other? Obviously, that will happen. So, how do you tackle that, the family?
Yeah. So I suppose there is routines. What we do. Let me start off by saying I wish I could do more.
Okay.
Okay. It is a bit of a regret. So when I think about just coming out of the professional career, part of the reason I also left, and I was happy not to go back into corporate, was that my eldest was 9 years old when I went into a sabbatical or restrained gardening leave. And I realized I didn't know my 9-year-old child. I didn't know my 7-year-old child. There were two of them. And it also hit me that this 9-year-old is only going to be a child for another 9 years.
Uh-huh.
Which means that like I won't know my firstborn child if I go back into corporate again. Right? And so it's quite important to kind of recognize that some of the emotion around the family bit is a bit problematic. So I've been very lucky that in the second half of their childhood, I had more time to spend with them.
Okay.
Right? And to get to know them. I'm reminded of a story. I know I'm speaking a lot, but I'll just give you an anecdotal story. Speaking to the men, we must always remember that mothers have a 9-month advantage over us in terms of bonding.
Okay.
They're the child. And so I wasted 9 months plus 9 years with my firstborn, which means I was like way behind in bonding. Right? And I realized if I wake up and at 15 I try and bond, it's too late. They won't want to connect with me. So like I worked very hard to kind of start bonding. So the practice is because of the kind of academic work, I then had more time. I drop off my kids at school and pick them up every day for a longest of time. Right? Now I do all the dropping off. Like even now, my 19-year-old is in matric. I don't have to, but I choose to. So I spend a lot of time every day kind of dropping off. Right? And then in the evening, the kitchen is the most important part of our home, right? So we cook together, right? Every day. And even when I'm at Gibbs, and you'll notice I won't eat at functions because the tradition is I must get home and
eat with your family. Yeah.
So our food is great, but that's the few times when we can connect every day. Right?
Yeah.
So we cook together, we clean up together. I'm a great sous chef. I can do amazing stuff with a knife in terms of the onions and the chili and the carrots and everything. Right?
The vegetables.
I'm great. Yeah. I'm great. Even rice, dude, I'm pretty good.
It's like saying my bowl of cereal, I can make that thing.
So we cook every day together. Then on weekends, we walk. We just choose which 5 kilometers that we're going to walk for breakfast every Saturday and Sunday. Go and have breakfast together, which then walk back every day.
Uh-huh.
Definitely with my wife. Sometimes our kids join us. And then we spend the weekend. So we live with my in-laws.
Okay.
So we have a main house. They've got a mini house. Yeah. And we live on the same property together. So we spend a lot of time seeing my in-laws every day. I'm not complaining. They're really wonderful people. And because they live there, my wife's sisters are always there.
Okay.
Right. Then my brothers in and out of. So our house is like park station, actually. All these coming in and out.
Maybe let me follow up on because I mean, you hit the nerve in talking about, the fact that, mothers will have a 9 months advantage, but you had a 9 months plus 9 years because you're trying to build
a career. Yeah. Or a business, whatever the case might be.
But I mean, that's this platform, it's about that, creating that work-life balance or balancing work. Some people say it's impossible. I mean, what would be your advice in that? Because I mean, I know that earlier you're thanking the events that led you from leaving your job into the environment. I mean, if somebody's on it like that, I mean, similar to you, but not the same. I try to, when this guy was still young, I was traveling quite a bit, but trying to make sure that when I'm around, I drop them, I go to the functions, I do them, but it's not enough. And also we're still making up. We do the podcast together and connect forever. But and then the next question is, you about to face a empty nest, but I mean, you say, because your in-laws stay in the same property, it looks like the nest will never be empty. But I mean, in terms of the kids going to varsity or leaving the house, but then
our eldest did leave home in the first year. Is now back at home, second and third year. And so what we learned, and then in the final week of every month, the house fills up a little bit because the vet students have run out of money, so they have to eat something. So the budget increases a little bit.
It's a trend.
So in short, look, I'm very lucky with that. I'm so in love with my wife, that I enjoy spending time with her. She enjoys spending time.
What is the secret?
What is the secret?
Yeah.
She's so beautiful. In so many different ways, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and she's so honest. She tells me the truth. So she doesn't praise me. She kind of puts me back in a box all the time, which I think you need when you're a leader, because in a leadership space, everybody's telling you how wonderful you are. My wife is saying, you're good at this, you're not good at this. So be real, dude. And so she's real with me, right? I'm sure. So from an empty nesting point of view, I'm not scared. I think our kids we'll release them, they'll come back. We'll release them, they'll come back. And there's enough people around us that there's enough relationships, whether it's our friends and their children, etc., etc. So I think we are okay. If I were to give advice as we wrap up, I would say the things that I regret, the choices that I regret. I genuinely thought you had to focus on one thing at the expense of the other.
So sacrifices.
Yes. I thought it was a trade-off. I had to put everything I can into my career at the expense in the first half of, let's say, of my, at the expense of the family, right? So I genuinely thought it's not true. You don't have to.
Balance.
Yes, you don't have to. Importantly, the reason why you don't have to is that those people that you're giving all this time to, you're just a resource to them. You are not a brother, you're not a sister, you're not a child. You're a resource, and the moment they don't need that resource, they spit you out.
They'll let it go.
So just remember, each job. Whereas your family is so important, right? And actually, there's no rush. Anyone who's building their career, take your time to build your career. There's no rush. And it's a bit like if you think about driving, sometimes you have to slow down before you speed up, right? So actually slow yourself down, and in the process, your career will speed up. And look, I don't want to speak on behalf of women, because I often hear women, because this is quite similar to also with women, they say you can have it all, but not at the same time. Meaning, you can be a professional, but you can't be a mother at the same time, right? Bullshit. For me, you can have it all at the same time. It just means how you frame it. So just like I was like a first person in my family to graduate. Didn't have a parent or an uncle can coach me, right? So I made some assumptions which turned out to be wrong, right? Now people like you don't have that disability. Actually, whether it's your dad, or it's me, or other people, there's so many more people who look like you, who have made it and have succeeded. So actually maybe speak to more and more of us. Coaching is important. Mentorship is important. Speak to people. When you're distressed, just share your distress. So for me, honestly, like I was a typical male person who didn't share their distress. I regret that. share. And I was very lucky to have a beautiful friend, called my wife, who really helped me to kind of hold those conversations.
Cool. I think with that, any parting shots, any advice, anything you want to say to me and Makate?
No, I'm looking for you guys to give me advice. I was just here to share my story. I suppose the only comment I can make to anyone who listens to this or watches this is don't be fooled by where you see people are at a point in time, because that's just a single data point. It's not easy to either be successful, whatever you feel is this image of success that you are seeing. Just understand there's no single path. There are many paths, and it's hard work every day to be successful. And success should not be measured in titles, degrees, bank balance. It should be measured in the impact you have on people, on society, on how you make people feel, and how you improve people's lives, not in the value of your balance sheet.
So profound. Yeah. So thank you very much again for making the time to be with us.
Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate it. Cool. Let's take a picture.